Yag ayich satini Johan gunas chist sahatya adi hatu yag ewuch in chasati ya yakita kusa chanyagi ya yagi az iktisi jinkat kadak unyagi yawahi yadis achuni nawaya yudu asagu kagwantan city ka Chan akawanik chusachantin yagach tudlak chatsu yewayatiach tundatani. Hi everybody, thank you for coming here again. We're grateful to be together again today. Today is Love Day. It's Valentine's Day, February 14th. A friend of mine named Nawea, who is Kagwantan, told me "Kusachantin yagach tudlak." We will succeed with love of the people. And that's how I feel as well. So we have a fun day today. It's Elizabeth Pradovich week, and Shaksani Keek and I really want to uplift her contribution, the love she put into her work to end discrimination in Alaska, especially in a time when racism toward Alaska Natives was just rampant. We have a lot to be grateful for her contributions to society in Alaska and in the civil rights movement across the world. So we have a video lined up for you today. In the 90s, KTOO filmed a play that was done by Huna students about Elizabeth Pradovich, and they have graciously uploaded it to their website, and it'll be up for a couple weeks. So we'll watch it today as a class, and I'll also share the link with you so you can share it with your friends. Just making sure everybody has access to it. So we'll do that. Shaksani Keek will introduce the video for us and share some information she would like to impart. And then at the end of the class, we'll have a discussion. So before we jump into the video, a couple class announcements. On Thursday, it is Elizabeth Pradovich Day, and so we won't have class that day. And then Friday, we will come back for our dialect series. This week, we're super excited. On Friday, we'll have Weha Jeff Lear. If you don't know him yet, you've probably seen his work. He is a linguist. He's been learning Lingit since he was very young. And he has recordings and information about Sanya Kwan dialect. And so he's going to put some things together for us. So no class this Thursday, but we will be together on Friday.
At the regular time.
Yeah, Friday at the regular time, 12 p.m. Alaska time, same Zoom link. Okay, also, we had a guest speaker, my friend Sky Du'u, share really interesting, awesome materials with us last Friday, and we didn't really have time for questions, and we wanted to make sure there's space for you. If you did have questions or comments about Dakka or inland Tlingit.
I'd like to make a comment before I don't want to take up all the time, but I was so thrilled to hear the speaker telling us the differences and the locations of the speaking styles that I used to hear when I was a child. And of course, you know that we are making these presentations not for you to learn how to speak like them, but to be able to hear it. And that's the wonderful thing about the Lingit language, is that whichever way or where it's spoken, we still understand each other. So whichever way they say their phrases, it still makes sense to us. So that's the exciting part, Kunachish.
Mm. Okay, I love that too. I love the work she put into it. It was interesting for me to hear her perspective. I'll definitely share with her. I know she'll be thrilled. One thing I wanted to mention is the orthography she shared. Uh, when she and I were students together, we collaborated on some work, and she has been going out of her way to learn the orthography that's commonly used along the coast and adapting too. So she has a really fun perspective being an inland speaker and having relationships with elder speakers from Teslin and then coming to the coast. And I'm just really blown away by her work. Okay, well, I did throw her presentation and materials onto our class website, so they're available to you. Please check them out and shoot me an email if you have any questions. Next, we have our video, and I wanted to make space for Shaksani Keek to share anything she would like to about her personal experience or background information about the play.
Yeah, quite.
Ah,
Um, the experience I had, of course, I was quite young uh, in the village of Huna. They were going to have the A&B convention in Huna, and the people in town, all of the people were very, very excited about the fact that Roy and Elizabeth Pradovich was going to be there. And people couldn't stop talking about it. And as children, we could hear the excitement. Uh, and we wondered, you know, who is this? Who are these people that people can't stop talking about? We wondered about them. So instead of asking questions, we wanted to see for ourselves uh, these two people as they came, and it was at they were both Grand President AMB, Grand President ANS uh, together, and so that meant that they would be in charge of the whole convention. So there was a group of us children that decided we wanted to see more about them and see exactly who they were that had caused so much excitement in the village. So there was a small number of us that came and we sat together, and they finally the announcements were being made to introduce them, and the person that was introducing them we thought was taking forever. He just went on and on and on about their credentials and who they were, their background, and everything. And I said, "Come on, we want to hear, we want to see them," because they weren't on stage yet. So finally, they made the announcement, and they both came out. Roy came out, and he was holding hands with Elizabeth as they came on stage. And she was wearing such a pretty dress, print dress, and her hair was really curly, and she just had such a friendly, happy face. And as she came out with Roy, and we thought, uh, "Wow, this is really wonderful to see them and actually feel the warmth that they gave just being on stage and when they spoke. And we stayed throughout the whole, as children, we stayed throughout the whole meeting. As you know about Tlingit Haidas, we could go on and on and on about different issues. And after the meeting was over, they came down from the stage to mingle with the people. And the first thing that Elizabeth Pradovich did was she came over by us as we were in a small group to talk to us. And it was just so wonderful. She just really smiled a lot and had such a bubbly personality. And she had big dimples, and we just felt really at ease with her. And she spoke to us first, and before she went on to talk to other people. So that was my one and only experience in seeing her at the time when they began to work on some of these issues in the 40s. I was busy being a student at school, so I wasn't that involved unless it was in Huna. But before that, my parents used to take me to all the different conventions. So I think the way these students worked on this is a fairly good depiction of the whole story. The students that got the parts to play, I think, were very well done. I was very lucky because when the students put on the play in Huna, I happened to be there. So I got to see what it was like. At the beginning of the film, they're going to show a lot of different students trying out for different parts. So you're going to keep hearing the same words by different people. And they're going to give a good description about how they worked on it. The boys that were part of the legislature had the most difficult time because of what they had to say, what the legislatures had to say about natives. So at the end of the story, after it was over, you're going to hear a beautiful voice of Stella Martin, who the native people really looked up to because she was extremely well trained as a speaker. And when you listen to her, you know that she took it very seriously. It was such a beautiful short speech that she gave. So I hope you'll be willing to make comments or ask questions. If we don't know the answer, of course, we'll have to find people that can answer you. Nachish.
Ikwati kunachish ha inki nige ya ishkat nige dat. Okay. Now we'll put this video up in front of you and do that. So this video was part of a show KTOO did called Rain Country, and let's jump right in. The play was done by Wanda Culp.
I think it's pretty good. We're teaching the other students about who Elizabeth Pradovich was.
I would not have expected that I Who barely as savagery would have to remind gentlemen with 5,000 years of recorded civilization behind them of our Bill of Rights.
These young people did not know they could do what they did in this play. And this play has changed their life forever.
These boxes are a gateway to Alaska history. Hello, I'm Scott Foster, and welcome to Rain Country. This is the Alaska State Library Historical Section. It's where many people start to research Alaska people and historic events. One Southeast playwright came here to learn more about an important Alaska civil rights leader. The result was a play documenting the passage of Alaska's 1945 anti-discrimination law. Hoona students performed the drama honoring Elizabeth Wanamaker-Peratrovich.
She was a Native woman who was fighting for what she believed in.
She was a person who was against discrimination in the 1940s. She helped Indian children get into public schools.
She was a woman that really cared about her family.
What she did should be as well known as Martin Luther King's doings in the 60s, because Elizabeth Peratrovich was very instrumental in pulling the territory of Alaska together and accomplishing this Equal Rights Act. Her effort should be known nationwide as well as across Alaska.
I would not have expected that I, who am barely as savagery, would have to remind gentlemen with 5,000 years of recorded civilization behind them of our Bill of Rights.
These words were spoken by Elizabeth Peratrovich before the 1945 territorial legislature. The Senate was ready to defeat the anti-discrimination bill, but Peratrovich's speech is credited with swaying the votes needed to pass the bill.
This super race attitude is wrong and forces our fine Native people to be associated with less than desirable circumstances.
The play not only recalls the words of Elizabeth Peratrovich, but also those of Alaska legislators and delegates to several Grand Camp conventions of the Alaska Native Brotherhood and Alaska Native Sisterhood. Appropriately, the story has been performed for today's legislators and Grand Camp delegates.
You're performing in front of Grand Camp. These people know this story. They know it. They lived it.
They are the story.
Okay? And so they're going to really be looking to this with pride. And let's give them something to really be proud about, okay?
This bill, when passed, will advance the United States. When passed, it will be first such document to be passed by any state or territory since the Civil War. Thank you.
Okay, I think you're leaving off the bills. And this has helped us frame the anti-discrimination resolution. This convention will be asked to vote on this session. Then when you say this bill, when passed, will be the first such document.
So you want me to
The play evolved from a Tlingit and Haida Central Council research project designed to tell a national conference about Elizabeth Peratrovich. The Hoona Youth Advocate Project organized the production and formed the Elizabeth Peratrovich Players. And those players learned more from the play than just the story of an Alaska civil rights leader.
What this play is doing to help the kids is it's building their self-esteem. It's giving them ways to communicate in other forms. It's showing them other sides of themselves that they did not know and see. So it's giving them more purpose, and it's keeping them from self-destructive behavior in the way that they formed a code of conduct for themselves. And this is high standards. They need to keep their grades up and put forth their best foot in education. They can't cuss or they get a $1 fine, and this is all their rules, their code of conduct they formed. They cannot drink, smoke, or be in trouble with the law. So it keeps them from self-destructive behavior, and this is the kids saying it.
The next day I arrived at the parlor. The shop owner had told me, "I'm sorry, we don't cater to Indian trade." I got angry and advised that lady that I am 100% Swiss born and wouldn't take her permanent if she gave it to me free. Apparently she saw me walking down the street with her. Well, I messed up. It takes a lot of courage to build up to be able to go on stage and perform in front of everybody because you're really nervous. And I still get that way sometimes. And it's kind of, you get up there and you're looking out in front of a crowd and you kind of space out and you forget your lines and then everybody's looking at you.
Once you get your lines down, it's pretty easy. But when you're got to do motions, it gets a little bit more complicated because you get mixed up and stuff.
It's more fun than I thought it would be.
Why is it more fun?
Because we get to travel and there's like all kinds of people having standing ovations for us, clapping.
I learned a lot through this play because I learned what people go through being discriminated, and I learned how the people that are prejudiced against Native people, I learned how they felt and how they felt amongst themselves and thought they were higher than others. And I also felt discriminated against.
She got him in the thinking mode of how it felt to be discriminated against with exercises like, without telling him what was happening. She'd call him in for rehearsal and they would all be sitting in a group. And Lonnie said, for those of you wearing white shirts, you can sit on the chairs, and those that don't have white on, you've got to sit on the floor. And she began her, I think it was a 2-hour session this way.
When they realized the star Elizabeth Pradovich, Cora Koenig, came and brought it to my attention, she said, I know what you're doing. And they said, what am I doing? And she says, well, you're making us suffer discrimination so we realize what our ancestors went through. And they said, you're right. What are you going to do about that? And Cora says, well, I'm going to get together with the group and we're going to confront you on this. And they said, you've got the real picture.
The other thing for you to remember is that you are not yourselves. When you're doing this play, focus in on your character and what that character was trying to say. What was he trying to put across, okay? Go for it.
Mr. President, I also oppose of this equal rights bill. I believe from my experiences that these measures is a lawyer's dream and naturally created hard feelings between the whites and natives. As you can see, there are already hard feelings here. I do not want to sit next to an Eskimo in the theater. They stink. Most natives are... Well, what Lonnie says is, it's not you that's up there, it's the actor. So I usually don't believe any of it. I just say it.
It would pretty much be pretty tough to say something like that. Like saying what he's saying, can't stand sit next to an Eskimo or something.
Why would that be hard for you to say?
Because being Native myself, you know, I can't really say, you know, oh, I don't want to sit next to this white person because he stinks. You know, you can't. It's really hard to say that in front of 100 people or so, saying that it's about someone else.
The play begins in 1941. At that time, it was not uncommon to see signs saying, "No natives allowed." The Grand Camp of the Alaska Native Brotherhood and Alaska Native Sisterhood met in Heidelberg that year. Henrietta Newton told the delegates it was time to do something about discrimination.
I am very pleased to be here today. I am a school teacher who lives in Cake with my Tlingit husband. This fall, while I was in Juneau getting winter supplies for my family, I called the beauty parlor and made an arrangement to have my hair permed. The next day I arrived at the parlor. The owner had told me, I'm sorry, we don't cater to Indian trade. Apparently she must have saw me walking down the street with my sister-in-law and her children and thought that I too am also Native. I got angry and advised that lady that I am 100% Swiss-born and wouldn't take her permanent if she gave it to me free. I proceeded to walk out of the shop. She followed me to the door trying to apologize, but to me the damage was already done. I was insulted and hurt. My husband is a very good person, and my children don't deserve this kind of an attitude. This is discrimination, and it's wrong. I know how it feels to be discriminated against after that incident, and I don't want my children to have to live with that kind of rejection. This discrimination is not a new thing, but has to be addressed to the future of our children. Thank you for hearing me out.
Other delegates related similar stories about discrimination.
I know of an Alia girl living in Sitka that wanted to attend a white public school because of the music program. Her father is white, the family is Christian, and they speak more than one language. She went to the U.S. courts to be judged an American citizen so she can go to that white public school. She was denied because she goes to fish camp every summer with her Aleut grandmother to put up food. This is considered uncivilized?
Seeing across Juneau is one place where I think that has signs on doors that says no natives allowed. Other businesses have the same kind of signs that says we cater to white trade only, or no dogs, no natives allowed. We can only live in certain parts of town in Juneau. We are not welcome in most business places.
This is an outrage. We are the real natives of Alaska, by reason of our ancestors who have guarded these shores for generations past. We will still and always be here to guard our beloved country, long after hordes of whites flee south with their earnings made from flagrant abuse of our rights and our country.
By 1943, the Alaska Native Brotherhood and the Alaska Native Sisterhood had formed an alliance with Governor Ernest Greening. Bob Bartlett represented the governor at the Grand Camp Convention that year.
Next on the agenda, we have a very distinguished guest who carries with him a message from our esteemed Governor, Ernest Greening. I am pleased to introduce to you Mr. Bob Bartlett, Territorial Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Grand President, Madam President. Governor Greening writes, "It is a privilege to extend greetings to Alaska Native Brotherhood. I regret that I'm not able to accept your invitation in person as I'm in Washington on official business. These conventions are valuable and produce much benefit to the Native peoples of Alaska. It is my belief that it is necessary for the Native people of Alaska to assume a more important part in their territorial affairs. Indians, Aleuts, and Eskimos are approximately 1/2 of Alaska's population, our oldest population. Here before the white man, in every sense of the word, Native people are the truest, year in and year out, all season, 100% Alaskans."
Greening's letter told the convention delegates to make sure others knew of the importance of the discrimination issue, to nominate suitable candidates in the primaries, and to vote.
In conclusion, I wish to say that I'm happy to work with you in reaching these objectives I have discussed and wish you the greatest success in your efforts to do so. Signed, Ernest Greening.
Elections were held in 1944, and at the Grand Camp Convention that year, 2 new members of the territorial legislature were welcomed.
Andrew Hope and Frank Pradovich, this year's new members of the 1945 legislature.
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam President. Thank you all very, very much. To let you know how Brother Andrew and I fared in the state elections. We ran first and third out of 15 candidates in the primaries. In the general election, we ran second and third out of 16 candidates. This is evidence that racial prejudice is not as considerable as it is in the territorial legislature. The results across Alaska show that the Alaskans are willing to judge and elect men on the basis of merit and not the color of your skin. Thank you.
In 1945, an anti-discrimination bill came before the territorial legislature. A majority of Senate members were opposed to the bill, and although the gallery was packed with Alaska Natives, legislators were not afraid to voice their beliefs.
My name is Joseph Green. As chairman of the Senate, I will be chairing this hearing on a bill entitled, "An Act to Provide for Full and Equal Accommodations, Facilities, and Privileges to All Citizens in Places of Public Accommodation within the Jurisdiction of the Territory of Alaska, to provide penalties to violations." It reads, "Be it enacted by the legislature of the Territory of Alaska." Section 1. All citizens within the jurisdiction of the Territory of Alaska shall be entitled to the full and equal enjoyment of accommodations, advantages, facilities, and privileges, subject only to the conditions and limitations established by laws and applicable alike to all citizens. Section 2. Any person who shall violate or aid or incite a violation of said full and equal enjoyment, or any person who shall display any printed or written sign indicating a discrimination on racial grounds of said full and equal enjoyment, for each day for which said sign is displayed shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction thereof shall be punished by imprisonment in jail for not more than 30 days or fine no more than $250 or both.
Mr. Chairman,
The chair recognizes Senator Alan Shattuck.
I am violently opposed to this bill. Far from being brought closer together, which will result in this bill. The races should be kept further apart. I mean, who are these people? Barely out of savagery, not associated with us whites with 5,000 years with recorded civilization behind us. Mr. Chairman?
The chair recognizes Senator Frank Whaley.
I'm a gold miner at Bush Pot, Fairbanks. I also oppose of this equal rights bill. As a bush pilot, I believe from my experiences that these measures is a lawyer's dream and naturally created hard feelings between the whites and the natives. As you can see, there are already hard feelings here. I do not want to sit next to an Eskimo in a theater. They stink. Most natives are not civilized, and I will not be exposed to them and punished if I refuse to even want to be around one. This bill is outrageous.
Mr. President? The chair recognizes Senator Talbot Scott.
Thank you. I wish to declare my opposition to the proposed law unless it is amended. Mixed breeds are the source of trouble. It is they who wish to associate with the whites. It would have been better had the Eskimos put up signs "No whites allowed." This issue is simply an effort to create political capital for some legislators. Certainly the white women have kept their part in keeping the race distinct. Had the white men done their part too, there would be no racial feelings in Alaska.
Mr. Chairman,
The chair recognizes Senator Grenold Collins.
I speak in support of Senator Scott's position. The Eskimos of St. Lawrence Island have not suffered from the white man's evil, and they are well off. The Eskimos are not an inferior race, but an individual race. The pure Eskimos are proud of their origin and aware that harm comes to them from mixing with the whites. But I believe in racial pride and think this bill will do nothing than arouse bitterness. Why we should prohibit the sale of liquor to these natives. That's the real root of our trouble.
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
The chair recognizes Senator Odie Cochran.
I wish to say that I'm personally assailed by Senator Whaley's remarks. I can recite numerous instances of discrimination that I myself have been a witness to. In Nome, an Eskimo woman was removed from a movie theater by force when she dared to sit in the white section. She even ended up in jail over it. It would take way too much time to tell you what I've seen throughout Alaska, but knowing that I've seen it. There is blatant discrimination in Alaska, and I stand in support of this equal rights bill.
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
The chair recognizes Senator Norman Walker.
I hold firm in favor of this bill. I have know of no instances where a native has died from a broken heart, but I do know of situations where discrimination has forced Indian women to live lives worse than death. Thank you.
The chair recognizes witness Mr. Jones.
I am Mr. Jones. I like to speak out for the white and native races in Alaska. To do otherwise would further complicate matters worse than they are already. We are not ready or willing to accept the mixings of the races. It just will not work.
Chair recognizes witness Reverend S.O. White.
In the name of God, I cannot fathom how a law like this could possibly change the situation to which has always been. Natives are not sufficiently educated or advanced enough to believe they can successfully mix with the white race. Look at the way they live. They are backwards in their thinking. It would take 3,200 years for the natives to reach the equality of a white man.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to call upon Mr. Roy Peradovich to testify.
Mr. Pradovich, would you like to testify? Mr. Pradovich, would you please establish your educational background and on what authority did you come forward to speak for the natives?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Senate, being a college graduate from the University of Western Washington and Grand Camp president for the Alaska Native Brotherhood, Since 1940, I stand before you today to testify in behalf of the Equal Rights Bill. I would like to remind that the Honorable Governor Ernest Greening, in his report to the Secretary of the Interior, as well as in his message to the legislature, that they have recognized discrimination all across Alaska. Even the plank adopted by the Democratic Party at its last convention in Fairbanks recognized action on behalf of the natives. As you all may or may not know, a plank is stated principles that make up a platform or program of a political party, such as the Democratic Party. There are members here today who will frame that plank. Only natives can know how it feels to be discriminated against. Either you are for this bill or you are against it accordingly. Think about that very carefully as you vote on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Perodovich. It is established legislative custom to offer the audience a chance to voice their views. Is there anyone else present who would like to come forward and voice their views?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Elizabeth Pradovich. I'm the Grand President of the ANS. I'd like to be heard.
Yes, Mrs. Perodovich, please come forward.
I would not have expected that I, who am barely out savagery, would have to remind gentlemen 5,000 years of recorded civilization behind them of our Bill of Rights. When my husband and I came to Juneau and sought a new home in a nice neighborhood where our children could play happily with our neighbors' children, and when we found such a home and arranged to lease it. When the owners learned that we were natives, they said no. Would we be compelled to live in the slums? There are three kinds of people who practice discrimination. First, the politician, who wants to maintain and fear a minority so he could always promise them something. Second, the Mr. and Mrs. Jones, who aren't quite sure of the social position, who are nice to one occasion and can't see you in others, depending on who they're with. Third, the great Superman, who believes in superiority of the white race. Discrimination, suffered by myself and my friends, has forced the finest of our native people to associate with white trash. This super race attitude is wrong and forced our fine native people to associate with less than desirable circumstances.
Mr. Perodovich, do you think that the proposed bill could eliminate discrimination?
Do your laws against larceny and even murder prevent those crimes? No law will eliminate crimes, but you, as legislators, can assert to the world of the evil presence and help us overcome discrimination. Thank you.
The Alaska Territorial Senate passed the anti-discrimination bill 11-5. 8 days later, on February 16, 1945, Governor Greening signed it into law. In 1988, the Alaska State Legislature honored Elizabeth Perodovich by marking the anniversary of this law as Elizabeth Perodovich Day, a woman whose life and work still have an impact on Alaskans.
The impact that it's had on the performers is vast because it affects so many aspects in their life. It has built their self-esteem. The acceptance of the play at the Tarot Convention was something that I don't believe the kids expected, and they had a standing ovation for quite a long time, so that was all new to them.
And it's matured me. It's made me realize that I'm not the only one that's really important, that there's a lot of other people in the past, in the future, and present.
I think it's pretty good. We're teaching the other students about who Elizabeth Perodovich was.
And then I like going up there and trying to show everybody how it feels to be discriminated against, and maybe they'll learn from how we were showing the play, and then maybe they'll stop discriminating against people.
Everybody, not one person has been able to come up to me and tell me that they haven't had a lump in their throat or shed a tear remembering. This play has brought back a lot of memories that hurt, and so it's a lot of unresolved hurt that's being faced by those, my mother's age group, and those that were firsthand victims of this kind of thinking. No.
Some of us went through those times. Some of us remember even people walking by you, holding their coats so that they wouldn't brush against you because of our nationality. And equal rights were really hard to come by. The younger generation has forgotten a lot of this, and you, the Hoona youth, are to be commended for what you have done, what you have learned, and what you are showing us even today. It seems to say thank you just doesn't begin to cover it. What a beautiful job you have done.
These young people are so amazing. I'm so proud of them. They were introverts, still kids off the street, very smart, and did not know they could do what they did in this play. I know everyone's been overwhelmed, including themselves, as to what they've done. This play has changed their life forever.
The spirit of Elizabeth Peratrovich is alive yet today. To offer this bright spirit to the rest of the United States for recognition will bring the light of a full circle. The enlightenment that we are all indeed created equal.
This replica of the Liberty Bell is a symbol of the freedoms and rights we enjoy and claim as Americans. Sometimes it takes people like Elizabeth Peratrovich to remind us that those rights are to be shared equally by all. I'm Scott Foster. Have a good day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I just love that play so much. I love that KTOO put it online for us. Personally, I feel so moved by the content of the play, the work of Wanda Culp, and also the people in the play group who motivated the students and guided them. I had never seen it until Shaksani Keek mentioned that we should bring it up. I'm just thrilled. So we do have 15 minutes for discussion, and we wanted to make time for people to share input, comments, questions you had about the play, anything stories that you wanted to share in relation to the play or the Anti-Discrimination Act in Alaska. Open the floor to you all.
I was surprised at how moved I was with this play. I really didn't expect to, have this emotion.
I feel the same way. I had to bring some sage and cedar to ground myself again as I was watching it. It was, it was very emotional, very impactful, very well done.
Yeah, we're gonna thank you both of you for sharing. It's a very impactful play and such an important part of Alaskan history and Alaskan Native history. Who else wanted to share?
I think too, what was so moving was the journey of the students, their growth in so many ways in terms of learning the history, but also, as they said, in their skills of just being able to grow and present themselves and realize the impact they were making by doing this.
Yeah, can you believe their maturity, like seeing the big picture of what sort of impact they had on Alaska? Shawat Kedan.
Hi. I'm trying to find it now, but I got this book for baby, notable Native people, and Elizabeth Pradovich is actually one of the people in here. It made me very happy to see that. And it just gives a really tiny little description of her life. And there's the really nice little drawing of her. And I read it to him the other day. So it gives a really general overview of everything that she did. And it was nice to get to learn a little bit more and actually hear the words that she said. I'm glad he was here to hear all of it too.
Oh, I love that.
Anybody wants, this is a really good book. Got a ton of very cool things in it.
Yeah, I love that. Who's the book by? I hadn't seen it before, actually.
By Adriana Keeney. I don't know if you can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Thank you.
Other stories, comments, questions folks have? Don't be shy. You can just unmute, or if you want to raise your hand, I can call on you.
I could add, I really like the sentiment in the beginning about telling the story in multiple different ways, using the play as a way to learn, so that Elizabeth Pradovich's story could be as widely known as Martin Luther King's. I kind of loved that, because it feels like we can't just have one lionized being and expect that to represent, all of the work and work to come. So I really appreciated that way of learning.
Okay.
I feel that way as well. One thing I didn't realize actually until I saw this play and then Chuck Sunny Keek shared with me is some of the instigation for the Anti-Discrimination Act and the work that was done by A&B and ANS was the person's experience who was not allowed to get a permanent by the hairstylist. And so for me, this play shared a little more background information than I had been aware of. But really impactful story.
Yeah, I found this really interesting as well. Goodness, sheesh, for bringing it forward. Being inland, Liggett, we necessarily don't hear these stories as much. So it's really nice to know, considering this is, Alaska's where our ancestors came from and our people are from. So I appreciate this. Goodness, sheesh.
Okay. Any other stories people want to share related?
I don't have a story, but I'm just thinking now, it seems to me that the video might have been recorded a few years ago. And so I'm wondering if they're, it's weird to like follow these kids, but I wonder if any of them have like gone into politics or are kind of charting their own path, because I'm sure, that they had mentioned this experience was so meaningful that I bet that some of those folks are in their own, worlds of making change. It would be kind of cool to get an update.
Yeah, I wondered that myself. This was made in 1991, so they're adults now, and it would be really interesting to find out about what they are doing now, what they have done. So it was really evident that some of them were really already good leaders and good speakers.
Yeah, wow.
We got Huna kind of re-interested in the story when we were trying to search. We were calling, Anna and I were calling everybody that we knew to try to retrieve this particular VHS that we could show.
Yeah, for folks who are in Juneau, you can rent it on VHS through the Sea Alaska Heritage Institute Library, which has posed a problem for us teaching online from Anchorage. How do we get a copy? So we dug around, we emailed, called folks like Shiksani Keek shared, and we made an inquiry with KTOO, and they said, oh, thanks for reminding us. We'll put it up online. So I'm super grateful they did that. And I did put the link in the chat on the KTOO website where you can find it. They said they'll leave it up for a couple of weeks. Yeah, I was thinking about the time as well. I thought I recognized Albert Kukesh Sr. in the audience. Was he there, Shaksani Keek?
He might have been. I was so excited about the play and the fact that Stella Martin was there. I'm really impressed with her. So I don't know. After the play broke up, then I had to get back home, so I didn't really stay around to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he was, because he was always visiting different areas. So, how much time do we have?
We're at about 5 minutes till.
Okay. While you're thinking about comments or what you want to say, I want to talk about students. In my experience as a Native teacher, I was told by the teachers that have been working here for years that these Native students never say anything in class. They're so quiet, you can't get them to talk or do anything. But my experience was, it might be because they were so happy to see a Native person as a teacher that their creativeness really came out whenever I gave them a task to work on something. They would really go into it with all their energy. And the reason I liked doing it was because what would really happen is once they decided to work on something, the leaders, the potential young people that are good leaders would be right there to work with everybody so that they came up with a project. And we did a lot of plays and a lot of projects, including Elizabeth Pradovich. So I know that they have the strength and the determination once they know they're given the background of what it's all about and the insight by different people to be able to find out. And a lot of times the students would say, well, I talked to my parents or I talked to my grandparents, and that really helped them to do their own kind of research and into their own families to come up with what we really needed to show in class. So I wanted to make the comment about the strength that as a group, the Native students are really have a lot of strength and a lot of creativeness. And a teach. And you couldn't keep them quiet if you wanted to.
Yeah.
For the quiet kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get very excited about projects like this one.
Yeah, I would love to learn more about their coaching from the theater group coach, because it was for me, it was really impressive to hear the students share their input. Like, what is it like to portray somebody who is, discriminating against Alaska Native people? Or how do you address, the things you have to say to portray history accurately? And how do you feel about it? For me, that was really deep.
Yeah, and then I had really a good laugh about the Reverend that they asked to speak. Reverend S.O. White. So white.
Yeah.
So that was kind of clever to stick that in there. That was really something.
Yeah. Well, they needed it, didn't they? I mean, for students to go portray history of Alaska and, some of the darkest areas of it, they needed that comic relief.
It was, yeah, that's what I think a strength is that they had the testimony on both sides, so that you could hear all the emotion of the arguments on the whole spectrum.
Yeah, they really did a super job on representing the legislators that were so determined to beat this bill.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to ask a Native high school student, okay, portray somebody that, discriminates against Alaska Native people. But for me, it's also very inspiring to see, okay, this is the real history. This is what we're fighting for. When we push even for language programs to be involved in schools, and for people to have equal access to resources. So important. Okay, Johan, well, we're at time. Before we go, Shaksani Kik, did you have anything else you wanted to add in closing?
No, on Thursday, in the evening, we're having a Tlingit Haida meeting. That's the Anchorage tribe. And hopefully we can show the same film to them, as nothing was planned for Elizabeth Pratovich Day. And it used to be, we really worked hard to make sure that we celebrated her day. The TV stations were quizzing us to find out what Anchorage was going to do about Elizabeth Pratovich Day, and I was the only one. So it just is. I think we need to wake up and keep that going for our young people.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna teach you, Han. For those of you who felt like this video and this play were close to home and maybe it was heavy for you, just remember to drink water throughout the rest of the day. Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Sometimes when you open up old wounds, later you'll notice, oh, I feel irritated or I feel frustrated. And so the advice I got is just to remember, be kind to yourself and take care of yourself. So get fresh air, eat some snacks. Otherwise, Hati Adi, thank you for coming here, and we'll see you not Thursday, but on Friday, same time, same Zoom link. Gunafchish.